In this video, we're sharing the top 4 observations we have as new electric vehicle owners, plus our overall 7-month review of our Chevy Bolt EUV. You might remember our first video where we shared our 1,179-mile shakedown ride in our brand new Bolt EUV from Sterling Heights, Michigan to our home in Daytona Beach, Florida. Our first observation about being new electric vehicle owners would have to be that driving our Bolt EUV isn't really different than driving a gas-powered vehicle. While that may sound kind of obvious to some, you would be surprised at how many people have asked us if driving our Bolt EUV is confusing, which we think may be because the sort of modern idea of an electric car is that whole center tablet computer thing that some other manufacturers have in their electric vehicles. The controls in our Bolt EUV feel pretty similar to our last car, so we didn't really feel like there was a learning curve. But to be fair, it might be because our Bolt EUV on our last car, a Buick Encore, is made by the same automaker. Anyway, we do have keyless ignition, which wasn't new to us. But what is new are the push buttons for engaging drive, reverse, neutral, and park instead of a physical shifter. And this is the parking brake. There's also a place for your key fob, but I have other things on my key ring, so we haven't used this little space much. There are a couple of benefits to these new designs, one of which is this big open area for holding my purse and other gadgets. The other benefit to not having a physical shifter is that the rear seat and floor are flat, with low rockers for easy entry and scooting. If you have a passenger who has trouble with lifting their legs high up, this back seat setup is very helpful. There is one real difference for me, and that is an option for electric and hybrid vehicles called one-pedal driving. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it here, but it has changed the way that I drive, and it not only saves your brake pads, but it also generates electricity back to your batteries. A simple explanation of it is that you push down on the pedal with your foot to accelerate, and you pull your foot up to decelerate. Our second observation of owning our Bolt EUV harkens back to one of our soft benefits of owning an electric vehicle in general, and that's how convenient it is to use our remote start to cool down our vehicle before we get into it. Unlike our old gas vehicle, our Bolt EUV blows cold air right at the start of the vehicle, so there isn't any waiting for cooler air. We can also leave our car idling when it's 100 degrees out if we plan on picking up groceries that need refrigeration. The level of comfort and luxury that gives us, especially living in Florida, is a really big deal and was something that we didn't even know we would care about before experiencing it. Our third observation is something that we still have in common with gas vehicles, and that's the potential need for air in our tires when we're away from home. The GM accessory tire inflation kit that we ordered with our car ended up being removed from availability for vehicles that have Super Cruise, so we never received it. Bottom line, you'll still see electric cars at gas stations because that's how we put air in our tires. We have not yet noticed air compressors at dedicated electric vehicle charging stations, and they seem to be a scarce amenity even at regular gas stations these days. We do hope that this is something that will be addressed during the electric vehicle infrastructure implementation. Our fourth observation is another thing that we hadn't really prioritized before buying an electric vehicle. If you've watched our previous videos on this subject, you'll know that our main reasons for switching to electric were 1. Get rid of emissions in our house, 2. access to Super Cruise, and 3, lower the car maintenance that my husband had to do. Well, with how things are going in the world, we have found that not being reliant on gasoline or oil is a huge benefit and another reason for us to want to switch to electric. Especially with living in Florida and being subject to hurricanes. We've invested in a couple of solar panels to indirectly charge our Ego electric batteries that we bought a few years ago when we were living in a condo that experienced pretty frequent power outages up north. We were able to recharge 2 of our batteries during the hurricanes in 2022 to keep our refrigerator working overnight. In a worst-case scenario with a prolonged power outage here in Florida, we could use these 2 panels to get about 4 miles of charge for our Bolt EUV in 3 hours. That might not sound great, but the takeaway here is that it is possible to manufacture our own electricity at home. I don't think you can say that about gasoline. And that brings us to how we feel about our Chevy Bolt EUV after having had it for a little over 7 months now. Because our March 2023 long road trip from Michigan to Florida was something that we had to really research and be prepared for, and because we had to have an appointment to install the electrical outlet, our expectations were sort of set to a level where we thought there would be more work involved with an electric vehicle and that we would be charging all the time. Well, the reality is, after the dust settled, owning our particular all-electric vehicle has been uneventful during round trips of about 200 miles when relying on home charging, and that's been the max of our needs so far. And we only charge once per week. I can safely say at this point that the positives that we've found during our first 7 months of ownership far outweigh the negatives that we've encountered. My husband likes that it's easier for him to clean because we don't get those soot/exhaust deposits on the back of the vehicle like gas cars do. Another soft benefit due to it being electric is how quiet it runs. Although our Buick Encore was pretty quiet for a gas car. Unrelated to it being electric, we're really glad that the Bolt EUV seats are very comfortable for us because that's not something you can usually tell until you've been driving for a couple of hours. And another improvement in just newer vehicles in general is the multiple camera angles available for parking. We love these, although it didn't save us from getting our first ding from someone opening their car door into us. I literally teared up over that. And for a smaller car, it has a decent amount of trunk space. Overall, we're really happy with our choice. All of that said, there are, so far, 3 things that we wish GM would have done differently with the Bolt, but none of these complaints have to do with it being electric. Our first critique is that there aren't any key fob proximity lock-unlock buttons on the rear doors. We don't want to have to change the vehicle settings to make all of the doors unlock automatically because our preference most of the time is to have the rear doors stay locked when we exit from the front. But sometimes we do immediately want to grab something from the back. It probably wouldn't be such an issue for us if it wasn't for the fact that our last car had them, so we keep trying to open the rear doors and have to go back up to the front to push the button there. The second thing that the Bolt EUV is missing is driver memory. This is our only car, which means there are 2 drivers and neither of us can save our seat adjustments. So when I get into the driver's seat after my husband has driven, I have to spend some time making adjustments to the seat and mirrors, and vice versa. The last thing we would change about the Bolt EUV is the reflective materials used on the Chevy emblem and the lower portion of the steering wheel. At certain times of the day, the sun hits both of these areas at just the right angle where it reflects the sun right into the driver's eyes. My husband bought this little decal for the bottom part of the steering wheel because that gets the worst of it. Anyway, it would be nice if GM added the features that we're looking for to their electric vehicle lineup, because while these are relatively minor complaints, they feel like major annoyances, if you know what I mean, and we are going to contact them about the sun reflecting issue. Overall though, we're really happy with our choice and are enjoying all of the benefits of our electric vehicle and the benefits of the Chevy Bolt EUV in particular. We do plan on taking some longer trips within the next year, so we'll post a video on any progress that we see in the electric charging infrastructure. I have to say though, even with only the infrastructure that is available now, in our personal current circumstances and in the current climate with automakers committed to making electric vehicles, we plan on buying electric-only vehicles for the remainder of our lives, and that's because of all the positives we found with our recent purchase. Thank you for watching and for your comments on our videos. We appreciate you sharing your personal experiences with this transition to electric vehicles. If you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more Paradise Today.